Hello, and welcome to Retro Ramble. I'm Charlie McGee.
I'm George McGee.
And this time, dear listeners, we are traveling 30 years back into the past through a portal of some description to review the film that inspired a series that's slightly better than this film.
Multiple series,
which is probably better than this film as well. Stargate. So, George, this is from Roland Emmerich.
It is. It's early Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. So yes, 1994. Like a fairly small film. I don't think many people expected it to be a hit, and I don't think anyone could foresee it. So yeah, spawning a multimedia franchise that almost continues to this day. I think it sort of fizzled out a few years ago, but we'll get into that later on.
Okay. So Kurt Russell, our good friend Kurt Russell, sporting both military cut back in sides and also an amazing mullet. But there's going to probably be a conversation about that. There's an entire story.
We always have to talk about Kurt and his amazing hair. So
yeah. I think there's going to
no amazing mustaches from Kurt though in this one.
No, but I think there will probably be more time spent talking about that than many other elements that have had much more money spent on them. So, okay, I'm good to go. Do we need to do a disclaimer?
I'll jump in. I'll throw in the usual ones. So, if you haven't listened to Retro Ramble before, it is a light-hearted film podcast, an independent film podcast. So Charlie and I are brothers, and the purpose of this podcast is to revisit the films that we grew up with. We look into how they came to be, production stories. Do they still stand up? Have they been remade? Have they been spun off into a Netflix series? So yeah, I say it's a light-hearted look back. There might be some trivia thrown in, but ultimately we aim to entertain. There might be some casual swearing. There might be some bad impressions, but just strap yourself in and enjoy the ride.
Excellent. Okay, and do we have, I'm hoping we're traveling back to 1994. I have to ask this. This just proves how prepared George and I are. Are we doing it because it's 30 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's say that.
Yeah, no. We did. It has been on my list for a while. Yeah, it's fairly like low down on the list, but yeah, I was looking at 30th anniversaries, and this came out, and I thought, well, yeah, it's kind of obviously it's a big-ish film, and it's created a big phenomenon off the back of it. So, and it's got Kurt Russell. So, shut up and take my money.
Yeah, okay, that's enough for me. Right, so it's 90s. Do we have a delicious 90s voiceover trailer?
I think we're going to have an epic trailer. So yes, I'll share my screen once you give me permission.
It has been buried for thousands of years. A mystery. A secret. A threshold to the future.
Where'd you find this? I've never seen anything like this.
One man will break the code and open the door.
Well, this should read Stargate. That was in front of us the whole time.
The other will lead the way.
Why are you here?
I'm here in case you succeed.
Jackson's identified the seventh symbol.
Backup storage, reserve power, on.
What is that?
It's your Stargate.
We've opened a doorway to a world we know nothing about.
The beam's locked itself onto a point somewhere in the Kalium galaxy.
It's on the other side of the known universe.
Your turn now.
They prepared for danger.
Begin final evacuation.
They expected the unknown.
Stabilizing system.
Initiating commencement sequence.
But they could never have imagined this. What a rush.
Stay right here and shoot anything that comes down that ramp.
Your job here is to realign the Stargate. Can you do that or not?
I can't. Track down signs of any possible danger. Well, I found some.
I can't make it work without the 7 symbol.
We have to abandon base camp!
You got 7 minutes.
Now, the most amazing discovery of our time.
Yes, wait for me.
Is about to become the most extraordinary adventure of all time. Kurt Russell, James Spader, Jay Davidson. Stargate. A Roland Emmerich film.
Oh my god. Okay, so
That was proper 90s trailer. An adventure like you've never seen.
I felt like that was one of those trailers they make for the movie execs rather than the general public.
Yeah. I mean, it is a good trailer in terms of it makes it probably more exciting than the film is.
I don't know what you're talking about. So I watched this film with my partner, with my wife, who thought the music was strong. She said,
Apparently it's David Arnold's first proper feature film, or at least an American blockbuster. So this is before, obviously he gets the Bond gigs.
Yeah, but she was like, it feels very epic and very Indiana Jones style, which probably led to the reason why a lot of people felt let down. So high hopes with the music and the setting and the Kurt Russellness of it all.
I mean, in terms of first memories, I remember being key demographic. I mean, obviously, I was 11 years old at the time. I remember going to see it at the UCI at the Metro Centre with Tom McKechnie. And yeah, we were very excited about it. And then we came out and we were like, nah, it was all right. Obviously trying to be a bit of everything, a bit of Indiana Jones, a bit of Star Wars. But bizarrely, I also have memories of being on a school trip to Whitby, and there's not much to do in Whitby if you've ever been.
But there is a Stargate.
But there is a Stargate. Now, obviously, it's a birthplace of Dracula, but where better to... And they obviously had, it's a seaside town, so they have arcades and amusements. And I was on a school trip, and we had some time free, so we ended up going on... those, what's the right term for it? VR buses. Remember when you used to have to sit in the thing that went up and down on pistons and you watched...
Like in Gatwick Airport when you've been delayed.
Yeah, we did it in Gatwick Airport, didn't we?
Yeah.
And there was the Stargate experience. And it was pretty cool, but it had... And I remember, that was one of the things I do remember from the cinema experience was... that bit when they go through the Stargate, and they heavily promoted it in the trailers, was the special effects. It was a pretty cool cinema experience.
Yeah, it was. There's a few things I think about this film were the effects that we saw in the trailer. It was very groundbreaking.
Yes, there was the whole morphing with the armor and stuff like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. Press a button. Oh my God, it's not actually a helmet. It would go on to be that sort of... It's almost like... It's funny how it looks like stop motion now.
Well, that's pretty much what it was, I think. It would have been like, just stay still. We're just going to animate some stuff around you.
Yeah.
So it's one of those films that I haven't watched in years, but I think it's worth chatting about because it's early Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin. And it's, as I said in the opening, it's a Kurt Russell movie. And I think there are some really interesting ideas. Obviously, there's enough ideas to create a huge franchise off the back of it. But yeah, have you got anything more to say about first memories, or should I just jump into the production background?
No, I just remember this being a very heavily marketed film. High hopes,
Yes.
high hopes. And also, we never really took, and I know we missed out, and I know people hate for saying this, we never really got into the series, but we always had a place for this film. It was it came out at a time, a very, as you say, influential part of our lives. This wasn't a bad film. We weren't disappointed in it. And because it had Kurt in, it was always never too far away.
Yeah, absolutely. We've covered a few of Roland Emmerich's films. Obviously, he's best known. He's kind of like I think he wants to call himself the master of disaster. But, best known for Independence Day, but then would go on to do the terrible Godzilla remake, and then Day After Tomorrow, 2012. What's the other one? 10,000 BC. And I'm sure he's done some more stuff. Moonfall fairly recently.
But we also obsessed with destroying the planet.
Yes, destroying the planet. But we also covered his first American feature film, which was Universal Soldier.
Okay, that's a good film.
I think his first feature film, he's German, I want to say, and his first film, Moon 44, caught the attention of Karolko, Mario Kassar.
Who also is involved with this film.
Yes. But this isn't a Karolko. I think Karolko, as we've talked about, was kind of going into administration, writing checks it couldn't cash. And I think this was the year of, having lots of sexy parties in Cannes. And I think this was the year that Cutthroat Island came out and basically bankrupted the studio. I think they were on borrowed time, even though they had produced one of the most successful blockbusters of the 90s, Terminator 2. Yes, they basically just stretched themselves too thin. But Hollywood being Hollywood, I think Mario Kassar had sort of declared bankruptcy and then reemerged in some other sort of form. But yes, this was originally an independent production financed by Studio Canal Plus.
Ah, Studio Canal, of course.
Studio Canal, a French company. And then, according to Dean Devlin, Canal was so sure that they had a stinker on their hands, they sold the movie, a $50 million movie, to MGM for $5 million.
Okay, wow.
So it still maintains a Mario Kassar movie, but I was reading some trivia that apparently there's a bit in Independence Day where Will Smith's girlfriend, the stripper with a heart of gold.
Yeah, how can you forget, yeah.
Throws some shade at her boss. She's like, see you later, Mario. And apparently her boss, the stripper boss, looks very much like Mario Kassar. And apparently that's a thinly veiled. I think they fell out with Mario Kassar and they didn't like working with him. Okay. But they would also go on to. So it shows how sort of a little bit petty that Emmerich and Devlin were, because in Godzilla, after they got bad reviews for this, and I think Universal Soldier by Siskel and Ebert. They have the mayor and his assistant in Godzilla are called Siskel and Ebert. So they obviously, that was one way to...
Don't you dare criticize us.
To vent their frustrations, they would slip it in as an in-joke in their next film. So, it's an MGM production, but because it was an independent film and they needed to sell it abroad, they needed a big name. So they went to one of the biggest names in Hollywood of the 90s, Mr. Kurt Russell, and he said no. Apparently several times. And they kept putting up the price they were offering him. And then finally it got up to $7 million and goes like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And it turns out Dean Devlin learned that somehow Kurt Russell had been sent the first draft of the script, which Devlin admits was terrible. But then when Kurt Russell read the shooting script, he was like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Yeah, okay. So he got his price if they just sent him the right script. They would have had to have done that.
But apparently James Spader had issues with the script as well. And at one point, there was an article that came up recently on Collider where it was reported. It might have been, I don't know if it was on the DVD or Dean Devlin might have been on some podcast. But apparently James Spader got so fed up with the movie, he was sulking in his trailer and he wouldn't come out until they rewrote the scenes. And Kurt Russell storms into his trailer and goes, "What are you doing?" And James Spader's like, "Come on, admit it. The dialogue's horrible." Kurt Russell goes, "Of course it's horrible. That's why they pay you $1 million. If it was brilliant, you'd do it for free."
Bringing him down to earth, Kurt style.
Yeah, just like, shut up and take the money.
But also, like, don't be so. I don't know. There's something about James Spader that he never really made it. I don't think he's got his blacklist or whatever it is on Netflix.
Yeah,
I tried to watch and I turned it off. I couldn't get through the first fucking episode.
Yeah, so James Spader sort of came to attention in, I want to say, early 90s or late 80s. And they were like, it was mainly with Sex, Lies and Videotape, Steven Soderbergh. And yeah, I don't think he was a bit of like an indie darling and a very like sort of serious actor, took himself quite seriously. So I think he was kind of, felt he was kind of selling out by doing a big budget, mainstream film. But yeah, he's had a very weird career, and I can't work out, is he just very good at playing sleazy, or is he just really sleazy?
I think he's probably, when you say he's quite artistic and like a creative darling and art house, it's like, I think he's difficult to work. I mean, we don't know. He could be.
No, it's just our interpretation.
A lovely, lovely guy, but the way that Kurt Russell looks at him.
I mean, he does have a great voice, and obviously, he used to good effect in Avengers: Age of Ultron. He has got like a good sort of menacing tone. I've never seen The Blacklist either, but I've, it has been, it's got its reviews, it's got its fans. So yes, he is a certain acquired taste, should we say?
Not chicken like man. He's a chicken man.
Not chicken man. Not like Kurt Russell, which is he should be everyone's best friend.
So. Yeah, I mean, where do you want to start when we talk about Kurt? Because I have made notes
about Kurt, mainly about Kurt's hair and his looks.
Yeah, I mean, where do we start with his hair? Okay, so in the backstory, he has a mullet. Right?
Yes. It's not a mullet, but it's longish hair.
It is. I just want to say, because we're taking this, we're going on from like how I think that. I don't think it was just acting. I don't think Kurt likes James Spader or his character, and then you start to understand why, and it's because. If you think about the backstory, so we've got Kurt, he had a son, he lost his son. He had a mullet, he then loses his mullet, and then he's forced to go on a mission with this guy, James Spader, who
has similar hair.
Has a glorious mullet. And I just feel like the whole film, there's like mullet envy going on between the two of them, because he's got a haircut that you could set your watch by, but there's something about it. It's just like,
Well, apparently, it comes up in the DVD commentary. So that is Kurt Russell's real hair at the start. So he went proper method and grew it for that one, like less than a minute scene, and then got the military buzz cut and dyed it. Apparently Dean Devlin said he was very particular about how he wanted his hair in this. And apparently it's been like on lists of like worst hair Hollywood, worst movie star haircuts. But yes.
Dean Devlin had specifics, or Kurt did?
No, Kurt did. Kurt was very specific about how like he wanted his hair a certain color, so he's like dyed it that sort of coppery gingeriness.
And then you come across the bad guy who has the ultimate weapon, which is a pseudo mullet, which is a full head of hair, yet it's shaped into a mullet, using the alien equivalent of hairpins. So like even the bad guy who's got long hair is wearing his hair like it's a mullet. So I don't know. I just feel it's working on different levels here.
Yes, definitely. Different levels.
I don't feel like you're on the same page here.
I haven't got. I mean, I've got stuff about Kurt's hair, but I haven't got. And I've also got Kurt loves to smoke in this, and And this is
Smoke, play
clearly
with guns, lighters.
clearly a 90s film where smoking's fine, but guns bad.
Guns bad, smoking good. Lighters
Smoking
good.
really good. But no, I think just jumping back, I like the prologue. Obviously, the sort of them discovering it in the desert. Apparently, to keep the budget down, the producers had stick figures covered with cloth in the distant deserts to bulk out those numbers.
That's cool.
But yeah, I think the build-up is pretty good, and I remember that them like working out, okay, what does it do? How does it work? And James Spader doing his shtick. And then you kind of get there, and then it sort of seems to lose momentum a little bit when they arrive. It's like, oh yeah, we've arrived, and then, oh yeah, it's going to take us a while to get there and work out what's going on.
I think that's where it loses itself, because it has got a strong start and the finish is, you could say, predictable, yada, yada, yada. But in the middle, you also get the feeling like this was shot, there was like one pyramid. Everybody lives near it. There's no...
Everyone lives near the pyramid.
There's no world building at all. We complain about world building, but like there is nothing in this.
Well, yeah, obviously I kept thinking when I was watching this of, God, I wish I was watching the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie.
It's the music.
It's the music, but it's also we've got to get away from the pyramid. We've got to go back to the pyramid.
What does the spaceship look like? Another pyramid.
It's a bigger pyramid.
On top of a pyramid.
A pyramid. No, it does, like, jokes aside, it does have some nice production design. I say like the armor and stuff, the spaceships, quite Blade Runner-y as well.
It's quite groundbreaking at the time. I remember it.
Yeah, I think they really did push it from a production point of view, and apparently that the opening of the pyramid, like, with the pillars and the doorway, that was all practical. That was like 7 stories high, built in, I think, the Utah desert. So yeah, there are some impressive production values, but yeah, I just feel like there's we'll go to the village, we meet the indigenous people, and then we have to go back to. But then I suppose you've also got some of Kurt Russell's team, who I've put in my notes, don't seem very beefcakey. If this was made today, they would all be absolutely ripped. But you've even got one of the guys that was in French Stewards. The guy was in Third Rock from the Sun. You've just got they're all like quite weedy.
Weedy, nerdy, bad actors. They're at base camp. So, I mean, I don't want to dwell too long on what's wrong with it, but there's like, what happens? So they're at base camp, then they go to the indigenous people. And it was at this point, it's like, oh my God, the Stargate has transported them directly into a Star Trek episode, because that's kind of what transpires. As soon as they get there, it becomes a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, we have to
Shatner cracking on with one of the local girls
whilst learning the language of love.
There's a bad guy. It is very much a Star Trek episode from that point on.
Yes, yeah, that's a good analogy. We're introduced to, as you say, king of the king of the mullets, the Egyptian mullets, King Ra. Why am I getting Michael Jackson vibes from Ra? Is it the fact that he has a collection of semi-nude small boys around him?
I think, and yes, I was going to say that's probably it. He's slightly naked, and he's not quite black or white. He's Egyptian, or is he? The other thing was the guy who has the beard, who's wearing the only guy wearing any color to separate himself from the indigenous tribe. Isn't he in The Mummy?
Yes, he is the guy that's trying to get them off the trail. Or accidentally sets fire to the map because he knows it leads to trouble.
Very confused because you've got the music, you've got him, and you're like, where's Brendan Fraser and a more exciting plot?
Well, obviously 5 years away from that, so
okay. You're not ready for that. You're not ready for this
yet. But yeah, let's just jump back to Ra. So there's actually this
Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson. Just me and my boys. I'm just playing games.
What are you doing with all those young boys who are barely clothed?
I know, his entourage. So apparently this film could have been very different and was changed. They did a really good job changing it in post-production after some disastrous test screenings. And it's all around the character of Ra. So Ra's played by a former male model, Jay Davidson, who was famously Oscar nominated for his turn as the pivotal character in The Crying Game.
Okay.
That the guy's a guy.
Yeah.
So in the original script, Ra was not an alien himself, but an Egyptian man working for the aliens who oppressed his fellow humans, but was essentially a slave himself.
Okay.
However, after poor test screenings, they had really low scores, and apparently one of the test screen comments came back, it was like, I don't understand, why doesn't Kurt Russell kick that puny guy's ass? So apparently Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich came up with the idea of hang on, why don't we make Ra an alien? And the other thing that was an issue that were quite sadly, Jay Davidson was struggling with substance abuse. He had a drug and drinks problem. So a lot of his delivery was really flat, and he was really struggling with lines. So he just wasn't coming across as a menacing villain. And so hang on, if we can add some special effects to his eyes and tweak his voice, we might make him a bit more scary and imitating.
Yeah.
Intimidating. So they effectively, by changing that, it made a lot more sense to, this is what's... and I think they've obviously done some clever ADR when James Spader's looking at the hieroglyphics and saying, oh, yes, he's taking the souls of... or, he's got himself in a human body sort of type thing.
Well, yeah, and now thinking about it, they could just go back and they show that thing. Yeah, I was like... a little bit of Scientology.
A little bit of Scientology, yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting vibes. This Tom Cruise would love to make a remake of this film. I think if he finds out about this, he's like, I've got to do it. It'll be amazing. It'll be him running up a pyramid. Come on, just do it.
Running up into space.
If you run fast enough, Tom, you can make it into space.
But yeah, I joked about the producers having to create stick figures for the opening. But apparently, the one thing that did impress me is that those final scenes with all the villagers running down the hill. I was like, that's a lot of extras there. And apparently, they had 1,800 at for the largest scene. So I was like, that's quite impressive.
It is, and so this is where he'd only done Universal Soldier.
Yes, and obviously this is before. Think Gladiator, where they started playing around with crowd replacement and extra replacement.
But he would. My point was, he would go on to build on this with
Independence Day,
and also what was the film that followed that? I think
Godzilla.
That's a hilariously good and bad film. So. That was probably a bigger letdown than Stargate, let's be fair. So
yeah, because I suppose Stargate, as I say, the hype was just through the marketing. It wasn't because it wasn't from the makers of Universal Soldier. And also Independence Day is a great film. I can remember being... It is. It's cheesy as hell, but it's a solid blockbuster. Yeah, but for a 15-year-old me, it was the way it was marketed to me. Oh, I think looking back on it now, a lot of people can scoff, but at the time, it was massive. It was epic. Okay. So getting back to Kurt Russell's... Getting back to your hair conspiracies with Charlie McGee. I'm beyond the mullet now, but that is what is the podcast is going to be called, Beyond the Mullet. Beautiful, the most beautiful hair, whether it's a mustache, a beard, or just his hair, it's just beautiful. Anyway, moving on. No, but as you say, Kurt just seems so pissed off in this movie, and again, I don't know, is it a method acting of, God damn it, I should have asked for another million. But yeah, and I think that's the one downside. If we look at our favorite Kurt roles, and he's just a bit too dour in this. He doesn't have really, yes, he has the gruff sort of military thing, but there isn't much of that Russell charm that even shines through in, Snake Plissken, who's very sardonic and screw you guys, but he's very cool. And obviously, Jack Burton is Jack Burton. There's nothing like Jack Burton, but
yeah, I felt like there was a missed opportunity because there's the thing where I think what you're trying to say, or what I think, how I would say is there's no arc. He doesn't seem to redeem
I don't know.
himself,
He finds the will to kill again. Thank you, Topper. You've given me what's it? It's like
I can kill again.
You've reminded me the joy of killing again. I think that's he's not afraid to wield a machine gun anymore.
But it is that. It's the fact that he goes through the trauma at the beginning. He becomes a very cold and closed character, and he has all of this stuff going on, and he's gruff and like what you're saying, and then.
I'm a little bit disappointed if we're going to jumping to retro rewrites that he didn't bring the Egyptian peasant boy back with him. The one that he gives the lighter to. It's like like in Face Off when he turns up at the end and says, "This is our new son. He's going to live with us." Just imagine if he turned up with a fully grown adult male, just like, "Hi, honey, this is a guy I found on the other end of the Stargate. He's going to come live with us."
That on the other side of the universe, where they have pyramids exactly the same.
He'll find a surrogate son.
Yeah. Brings him back. Oh my God.
Make it happen. The only other thing I have to say about this film in my film notes is, how does Ra know how to fiddle with the bomb and to set the bomb?
I thought you were going to say with the boys.
Well, we know how that's why he's got many boys.
Because he's Batman? No, but it is like that. It's because he's an alien. He's got an alien spaceship. He's like, I found your bomb. I
found your futuristic looking bomb.
Think of that voice from Family Guy. I found your bomb.
It's nice. It's my bomb now.
I've made it 100 times more powerful
with my special minerals,
which I think if James Cameron would have got a hold of it, it's like
unobtainium.
But it's like it would have been more realistic. It's like they wouldn't blow it up. It'd be like make it like they've got a resource and then we're going to steal it. And we get in trouble for stealing it. The bomb thing was very 90s. It was very, very like, what are you going to do? It's a bomb. It's not a bomb.
Nuke it. Let's nuke it.
Let's nuke everything. So let's just say, I think, okay, so to round it up, what's good about this film? I remember back in the day, great special effects. I think we almost went to see it for its special effects. Yeah. It's a passable romp. It's a solid 6 out of 10, if you want to put numbers on it. Not that we do, but it's kind of in that ballpark. It had great potential. It's probably a 5 out of 10 that's brought almost up to 7 just by Kurt Russell. But
and David Arnold's score. It is a really good score.
It is a very good score. And James Spader's not that bad. But
he's not that despicable.
Not that despicable. But what I would say, I think what we have to thank this film for was Emmerich honing his craft. And he hasn't made the best films of all time, but he has made some great cinema blockbusters.
Yes, and I think that's it. It's obviously stepping stone. So I haven't got any coulda, woulda, shouldas, but we can talk a lot about suspicious.
I've got a spin-off idea. It's called SG-1.
Damn it. So apparently, because it'd been sold to MGM, for some sort of, I don't know if they just got shafted by the lawyers or whatever, but then MGM owned the rights to everything Stargate, but not Dean Devlin and Emmerich. So Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich had envisaged it as a first part of a trilogy, and it kind of does end very suddenly, isn't it? It's like they just go through and then it ends with Kurt Russell returning.
My main takeaway is nobody gets home. Like, you don't see Kurt Russell turn up home, do you?
Yes, exactly. You don't. No, you
don't see James Spader. It's like it's all left in the air.
Yeah, and I think there was talk of them doing something with the Mayan. Like, what else has pyramids? But and it was going to be linked into like all the sort of random mythology and conspiracy theories. Like, I think the third one was going to bring on, this is why we have Yetis and Loch Ness monsters and what have you. But MGM were like, no, we're going to go in a different direction. So yeah, Stargate SG-1 comes out in 1997. But meanwhile, yeah, we've talked about 1990. I think 96 is ID4. Yeah, I think it's 1996. Yeah. And then that's a mega success. And then they go on to do Godzilla. But yeah, they couldn't do the other two parts of Stargate, even if they wanted to. But it kind of felt like they weren't doing too badly anyway. They were getting, silly money. But yes, there was Stargate SG-1. Then there was Stargate Infinity, which was a cartoon series. There was Stargate Atlantis, Stargate Universe, and Stargate Origins, which was a web series. But then there was also comic books. There was games. Yeah, Stargate Pinball.
Magazines.
But then Dean Devlin was, in 2006, said he was back in early discussions with MGM about bringing the final two parts to the screen, about them uncovering a new Stargate. And he said Kurt Russell and James Spader were on board. But then nothing happens. Then May 2014, there's an official announcement in Variety that MGM and Warner Brothers are partnering together for a reboot as a trilogy, with Emmerich directing and Devlin producing. It doesn't mention anything about the stars returning. But he said, yeah, their plans are to make a reboot. But then a couple of years later, 2016, Devlin tells Empire the reboot and series have stalled. And then I think as recent as last year, so now Amazon owns MGM, and they've announced that they're hoping to create both new Stargate movies and television productions, with a new film to kick off the whole thing. So don't be surprised if we get some more Stargate in the near future.
I had discovered that on my I was amusing my wife reading out some of the reviews. She was like, "Is it a good film?" I was like, "I remember it being it's okay. I was like, let me do a quick 5-star search," and they never disappoint.
Oh, with the
5-star
second opinion.
Yeah, it was very much that. It was like the language in it, and you find them all. There's loads of them. It's like probably it is the typical stuff. It's like probably the best sci-fi fantasy that's ever been made. And then the guy goes, apart from Star Wars.
apart from Star Wars.
No, so it's, yeah, I don't know if you have the same, this is for any of our listeners who have children. I was like, I could probably watch this with my kids. Like, there's nothing offensive in it. There's nothing really gruesome about it or scary.
I tried with my daughter. So I woke up early one morning and I thought, I'll even before the kids, I was like, I'll start watching this. And then my daughter came down. She's like, what's this? I was like, oh, this is Stargate. You could probably enjoy it. It's about guys who, find this special traveling device and they go to another planet. She was like, can we watch something else? I was like, God damn.
Wait. He's going to cut his head.
and then like another day later, I'm watching it. And my wife comes in. She's like, what's this? I'm like, you could probably watch it. She's like, can we watch something else? I was like, God damn, I'm never going to get to watch this movie.
Yeah, tracking your family through it.
Yeah,
they've just got to embrace it. So, I mean, I think you can probably, George and I, we saw SG-1. I don't know if you watched it. I never watched it. I like, it's not got Kurt Russell and I'm out.
I remember Robert Carlyle was in one of them. Was that maybe Atlantis? I remember them
following it more closely than me.
I remember them being advertised. I might have seen like at most maybe like 15 minutes of an episode, and it was just like, oh no, we keep talking about this like, oh, it's very TV budgety, back
before,
when back in the old days when TV shows had very limited budgets. It's a bit like and it just was like, yes, you've got MacGyver. It was the guy who plays MacGyver. Was he Richard Dean Anderson?
Oh, when he was older, yeah, with the crew
playing the Kurt Russell role.
Yeah, with the Kurt Russell hairstyle.
I think I didn't even watch it enough to work out whether they were just recast it or they were brand new characters. I was just like, nah, I'm just really not feeling this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd say it's got a big fan following. So, each to their own. And yeah, it is that, as you say, that kind of mix of Star Trek, Star Wars, a little bit of Indiana Jones. But there's a lot of potential of, oh yeah, they can go to loads of different worlds. And I'm sure they did.
Yeah. The only other thing, it's not even really worth mentioning, but the fact when they find the Stargate in the desert, how do they know to make it upright? It felt like the image was being forced to be. It's like, oh, well, it's supposed to stand up. Yes, because of course, a massive circle that you find in the ground, your first inkling will be, well, this needs to stand on its side, perpendicular.
Yeah, well, I watched the director's cut or the extended edition, and there's a bit they've added in the director's bit where after they've lifted up the Stargate in Egypt at the start, they look down and they see fossils of a couple of the soldiers that have obviously tried to come through and are fossilized, but it's not very clear what's going on. You can just they see these two guys, a bit like the Kryptonian criminals, like squashed into stone.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, that's strange. And then there's another later bit where Kurt Russell is at the base and he's staring at it, and the majors or the general's like, you better be prepared for what's on the other side, sort of type thing. Yeah. So they kind of allude to it, but not very well.
Yeah. A lot of potential.
So, yeah, I think our listeners will probably be intrigued because not every film can be amazing, and not every film on this, we love a lot of films. We take enjoyment for these films, but yeah, not every film can be a bona fide classic. But I think there's enough about this film to talk about. Yeah, if that makes sense.
And we were highly suggestible during the 90s.
During the 90s, that not now.
No, not at all.
Let us know what you think of Stargate. Were the series any good? Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Amazon do with it, because obviously TV, we've talked about the budgets, but they get Kurt Russell back.
Yeah, she's still up for making films. What will Amazon do with it apart from putting some beautiful adverts front and back and in the middle?
Now.
Yeah, not.
Well, yeah, I had this on DVD. And I started watching, I was like, oh, yeah, but it's on Amazon and it'll be a lot easier to watch on Amazon. And it'll probably be it'll probably be in HD or maybe 1080 because my DVD is not.
Wrong.
And then I got 50 minutes and it starts showing adverts. I was like, but I have, this is the premium Amazon. And I got annoyed. So I went back to my DVD, and it wasn't, the other thing was, the compressed blacks and stuff that annoyed me on Amazon as well. They're really when it goes a bit pixelated and dark scenes.
No need. Okay, so if you haven't already, please check out the website, which is retroramble.blog. Anything else we need to promote? There's our Patreon channel, which you can get on patreon.com/retroramble for even more delicious and delectable content. Can we talk about what's coming up next, George? No.
Yes, we can. So we are getting into. It'll be Christmas is upon us. Mariah Carey has been released from her cave or her containment.
Defrosted. Yeah.
Defrosted in her containment system, a bit like Jason X. So yes, we're doing a Christmas movie, and it's also a comic book movie, and it's also a Batman movie.
Oh,
it's Batman Returns, featuring Christopher Walken.
Oh my God, this film! Oh, George and I don't know if you've heard about this. So George and I are quite the fans of the Walken.
Yeah, Santa Claus. Afraid not.
Yeah, it's going to be Tim Burton. Come on, he's still knocking it out of the park with Beetlejuice. Let's go back. And that is a film to watch with all the family as well.
Yes, especially with all the black stuff coming out of the penguin's mouth at the end.
Is that blood, Daddy? No, it's not.
Why are all these kids crying?
That would be disgusting. That is black goo. Oops.
So yes, we'll get into that next month. But I'm very excited about that. As you know, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, I'm a huge Batman fan. We're both Batman fans, Keaton fans, So yes, we've been holding off for doing this one for a while. But yeah, it's Christmas. So we always like going a bit left field as well.
Awesome.
With our Christmas selections anyway.
And I think we'll probably do a review of the year as well to boot. So there's lots to look forward to. Thank you for listening for this episode. I've been Charlie McGee, and I do apologize for the echo. I am on the road, tunneling underground, making my own Stargate. That's all I can say.
I've been George McGee. I'm in my usual spot, surrounded by my Kurt Russell shrine.
And Batman Lego.
With locks of his real hair and Batman. And lots of Batman Lego. That is the truth. The Kurt Russell stuff is only slightly untrue. But yes, thank you for listening. If you enjoy the show, please do leave us a review and get in touch with any suggestions. But take care of yourselves.
And each other. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
On the other side of this doorway, but it will most likely be really weird. If you reach our imagination, you are to take every step necessary to get it under control. Are you ready?
Yes, sir!
Are you ready, Kurt Russell?
I don't understand why I'm here. I'm just an actor.
Yes, but you were in that one movie that was kind of like this. That gives you more experience than anybody. All right, here we go. Men, forward!